tonight. Before the cameras came on, and before the cameras were rolling, we was discussing something that's going on in the world that maybe a lot of people don't know. We was talking about there is an actual war going on right now in front of our eyes. There's actually a war right now. And this war that's going on is getting played out behind the scenes. So there's things that's happening behind the scenes that's leading to this war. And the first one that we can see in front of our eyes is Ukraine versus Russia. Now, the Ukraine versus Russia, for me personally, is actually Russia versus the US in its own way. They've used Ukraine as like, let's test out some new weapons and see what weapons they got. Because sometimes I feel like some of these things that happen, it's like I'm watching what artillery you got. That's why, did you see in the news I think it's like a day ago, yeah, there's like, a Russian jet collided with a US drone. What was the US drone doing in the Black Sea? And how did it hit a Russian jet?
Well, it's the same thing when they had that Chinese spy balloon rolling around in America that the Americans eventually shot down. The thing is, warfare has changed. You know, it's not the same warfare that we saw in World War II or World War One. This is very sophisticated type of warfare, and when we're talking about sophisticated weaponry, we need to find out what our opponents have. Because if what we think is sophisticated, then they must have something that matches it or even better. I mean, nuclear bombs is a sophisticated type of weapon. I mean, the Russians said that they had something called the Poseidon, which is an underground nuclear bomb, which they claim can cause a toxic tsunami, which can wash over the UK. That sounds like some Avengers.
Hey, let me just say something to you. I didn't even hear that one. But
Yeah.
that one sounds mad. Imagine man just flooding.
Yep, this is what they said. They got a weapon. Anyone knows about this? It was on the news. And they actually, this is how scaremongering the media was. They said that they caught Poseidon. It moved out of the Russian side. And they were like, everyone was shocked, like, Poseidon's coming. But Poseidon is this massive, long nuclear bomb that basically goes into the ocean. And then when it explodes, because it's so powerful, the Russians claim that it can cause a toxic radiation tsunami that will turn Britain into a toxic wasteland. That's literally what the guy said.
Yeah, but if I'm being honest with you, I don't think anyone... You know, one thing I've realised here is everybody says they want war, but nobody really wants war. Do you know why? War on any front is always a disaster. Everyone's a loser in war. There's never a winner in war. I believe there's a winner in peace, but there's never a winner in war. Meaning, if I can preserve life, and one of the maqasid of Islam is the preservation of life. It's not the taking of life. One of the maqasid of Islam, one of the objectives of Islam, like if you look at the objectives of Islam, what it actually comes, one of the things is preservation of life. So don't get abortions, have your children, stuff like this. Does it make sense? Like, don't kill the innocent, don't do this. It's all about preservation. You're not even meant to kill little insects and animals and stuff. Islam is the preservation of life.
And even when Muslims do go to war, it's more from a defending position rather than an attacking position as well.
Always. So I generally believe that war for anyone on any side is going to be a loss because people are going to die.
Absolutely.
And money... Remember, war costs money. So the money that we should be spending on the things here that we actually need will be spent on some soldier that's flying to this other country to fight a war that we didn't even have any part in.
Well, I think we were just watching a video there, and Donald Trump said, how much did he say, 12 trillion or 7 trillion?
2 trillion.
2 trillion was spent on Iraq. As far as I know, 37 billion just in taxpayers' money was spent on Afghanistan for 20 years and they lost. So... You know, the thing about modern warfare and what really annoys me is if we do go into World War III, it is not even an honourable cause as far as I'm concerned. Like, we're literally going to die because of greedy, sick individuals and their filthy agenda. And, like, that's what scares me the most. Like, innocent people who are literally, especially with the cost of living crisis, who are slaving away just to make a living, could potentially lose their lives. They've been working so hard just to survive, and it won't mean nothing because we have these type of leaders in government right now. Because what are we really fighting for?
We're not fighting for anything. If I'm being honest with you, we're just dying for nothing. And it hurts my heart to think about what's actually going on. So just some facts of what's going on. The Ukraine war with Russia is not actually a war that you think. This has been happening for years, just before everyone thinks that this is something new. This has been happening for years. Ukraine has been playing both sides. Now, Russia said to them, very simple, pick your side. Ukraine been getting funded so much money from the US, so much luxuries of this kind of fake lifestyle and, you know, the Western world, that they said, no, we don't want to do that. And Russia said, we've made up our mind. This is what we're doing now. Because where Ukraine is, it's in a very bad military position for America and the West to get invasion into Russia. Russia has locked off all the other parts. There's no other part that they can get them from except Ukraine and a few other places which Russia's got good diplomatic ties. With Ukraine, they didn't have good diplomatic ties. Now, the guy was screaming for NATO to help him. Now, NATO, and this is funny, are funding weapons to Ukrainian soldiers. Now, if you don't know this, the Ukrainian soldiers, the majority of them, let's say 90%, are Nazis. You're funding
A lot of
Nazis.
them, yeah. Well, let's go back in history a little bit, right? So, you know the Muslim Caliphate. There was a Muslim Caliphate. There was no such thing really as Turkey or Algeria or Maghreb. It was all the Muslim Empire.
The Ottoman Empire or this empire, yeah.
Right. So the Russians had something similar, and that was called the Soviet Union. So it compromised of Ukraine. Ukraine was actually the capital of the Soviet Union. And all the countries that border Russia were also part of the Soviet Union. And Russia was basically the head of that. That was like the Eastern...
Yugoslavia, all of that.
Yeah, that was the Soviet Union, okay?
Kosovo, all that.
Right. And so what the West did, essentially the Americans did, there was something in the 80s called the Cold War. And this was basically something similar to what was happening now, but they said that this was close to a nuclear war. So it was a war going on between the USA and the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union existed at this time, right? And eventually, the Americans destroyed the Soviet Union. And this is how they carved out the borders of what we see today. They carved out Ukraine, they carved out Russia. So the Russians themselves have this internal beef because you destroyed our empire. And the USA had to destroy that empire because it was the biggest threat to the USA eventually becoming the global world dominator, because the biggest opponent that they had at the time, they destroyed the Muslim empire.
That was easy for them.
Right, carve out the borders, give Palestine here, the Sky-Picos agreement, the Muslims are done. Now we've got this Eastern power that we need to destroy. So they destroyed it and they carved out these countries.
Do you know historically the power of Palestine? Do you know the history of the power of it? So basically, Palestine to the Muslims is like one of the most holiest places. Not because of Isa alayhi wasallam, before him. We're talking about Ibrahim alayhi wasallam, and we're talking about Ishaq, and we're talking about his son Ismail. All of this history of even Sulaiman, if we really want to go even further.
Solomon, Dawood, yeah.
So Sulaiman, Dawood, all of these people, all of these prophets actually came from, let's not say Palestine today, because Palestine wasn't what it was. It was bigger. It was part of Jordan, part of all of these different parts. Even from what I know, from a historical part, it even stretched off into Egypt. Now, that part in the world was the epicenter of Islam and the epicenter of religion. So when you remove that, now we can start doing all kinds of things. So Palestine was, let's just say for argument's sake, was like showing Muslims how weak we really are. Because we all love Palestine. We all want Palestine to be free, but none of us can do nothing. So that showed Muslims how weak we really are. If you really want to go deep with it, we're actually very weak on the basis that I can't free my brothers from Palestine. I can't do anything for them. All I can do is make dua. I can't do anything for them. And even if I went there, I'd get licked down quickly. You ain't getting away with nothing. So my whole point, take that part out. But what I'm saying, is that Palestine was a big thing for the Muslims, the big thing for Islam in general. And because now it's been destroyed, it has had an effect on the whole Muslim world.
But the reason why I have to mention this and give context is this is colonization, the effects of colonization, right? When you divide a group of people and you strip them of their identity and you limit them to nations and borders and flags, somewhere down the line, these people are going to want to reclaim that, yeah? And so this is why Russia has been accused of trying to rebuild the Soviet Union again. And part of them taking Ukraine...
What was wrong with the Soviet Union? It wasn't affecting us.
Well, I don't know too much. It was a communist regime. Russian history in itself is very complex because they went through a lot as a people, you know. And it makes me laugh when the Western governments say that, you know, Putin is a Nazi. When do you know that the most people that died fighting against Hitler were actually Russians? Russians took the most L's out of Britain, out of France, but anyone that got involved in World War II, the highest death rate came from Russians.
No way.
They were the highest people that died, the most that got killed, sorry, out of the English, out of all of them. Russians lost their lives fighting against Nazis. But for some reason, Putin is a Nazi, right? They went through some sort of famine as well, really terrible famine. If you know about the Tsars, the Tsars, the monarchy that was executed, there's so much, like, it caused a revolution. This is where Stalin comes from, who again was one of the founders of communism. Communism is an idea where basically there is no social hierarchy, where everybody is equal. So whatever I do and you do is always going to be equal. There's no rich, there's no poor, which again, it sounds idealistic. But at the same time, what if I put more effort into doing something? Why should I be treated equal to somebody who hasn't put the same effort as me? And basically, the whole society was based on serving the state. So whatever income you made, it goes straight to the state.
The thing is, they've made communism sound better than democracy when all of them are evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all evil. To me, I can't say communism is more evil than democracy because we was taught in school that communism is evil. You see, I feel like we've been brainwashed from children to have like a hate towards Russians. I feel like don't you remember the movies with like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Spielberg? Do you remember that? And then and then they'll be like, the Russian guy is Russians, the bad guy.
Well, it's the same. It's a stereotype in the way that they portray black people in mainstream media, the way they portray Muslims in mainstream media, and Russophobia. It's actually interesting that you mentioned that because Russophobia, if we're gonna just use a term, is actually happening. Russian people can't compete in Olympics.
Why not?
They're not letting them. If you're Russian, there was a video that came out the other day. A Canadian activist actually confronted this Olympic board, right? And they basically said no Russians are allowed to compete and no Belarusians are allowed to compete.
Why not?
Because of the war in Russia.
But that hasn't got to do with everyone.
Or the war in Ukraine. Exactly.
But that's just to do. That's political. Like, you can't stop me from running because I'm a runner. I don't have nothing to do with that.
It's discrimination of the highest order. The amount of sanctions that were imposed on Russians, you know, discriminating them from politics, discriminating them from multiple things. You know, I think the Russian guy that was the leader of Chelsea Football Club, he had to resign, or they tried to apply some pressure on him as well.
Abramovich.
Right, so this is clear-cut discrimination. What do innocent Russians who've got nothing to do with the war, why are they being discriminated? Why are they being targeted against? But again, it shows the hypocrisy because the Canadian guy said, okay, if Russians can't compete in politics because they're involved in what you deem to be an illegal invasion, then Americans shouldn't be competing either. British people shouldn't be competing. Israelis, Zionists shouldn't be competing. Keep the same energy. But as we know, they're never going to keep the same energy.
Facts.
And this is why it's very imperative that people do their research, because I see a lot of people, especially at work, when we're discussing these things, those awful Russians, you know, those Russians, what they've done to Ukraine. Do you know anything about this situation other than what you've heard from the news?
Do you know what even strikes even deeper than this is that if we really want to say that the Russians are bad people for what they're doing to Ukraine, then let's be fair and say that the Americans are bad for what they've done to Iraq. So, and not only that, but they're bad for what they've done in Syria. They bombed the crap out of Syria. I think we're failing to understand that they destroyed the country. With all them airstrikes they were doing, airstrikes, and everyone out there needs to understand this, airstrikes don't just kill me and Zubaydah, it actually kills every single person that's there. So innocent people can get killed in airstrikes.
Within that radius, yeah.
So lots of innocent people was destroyed. The landmines and everything was destroyed, but we don't rebuild nothing. So if we're going to say that they're bad people for going into that country for whatever reason they say they're doing it for, and I believe that the Russians have a legitimate cause to go into Ukraine. It's not like these other guys, mass destruction, ISIS, all of this. I generally believe there's actual problem that Ukraine was doing, and Russians said to them for years, look, are you with us or against us?
So basically, in Ukraine, there is a certain part of Ukraine which is called Crimea, okay? So back to the Soviet Union, when they split up the Soviet Union, you've got countries like Estonia, right? You've got countries like Ukraine, and you've got another country as well, I forgot what it's called. But the thing is, most of the people that have been put into Ukraine are ethnically Russian. So yes, they might be nationally from Ukraine, but ethnically they speak Russian, they identify with Russian culture. Now there's a certain part in Ukraine called Crimea. These people are Russians, and they identify as Russians. They don't want to be called Ukrainian. And what Putin actually said is he's defending this group because they're being persecuted by the Ukrainian government for identifying as Russian. And so they actually had a vote in 2014 where they voted and they were asked, do you want to be a part of Ukraine or do you want to be a part of Russia? And they actively voted and said, we want to be a part of Russia. What did the Ukrainian government do? They said, this is all a lie, this has all been staged. These people are being forced to vote. These people actively said, we do not want to be a part of Ukraine. We are Russian people. We want to rejoin with Russia. This is why one of the first parts of Ukraine Putin took was Crimea. He took that region because that region has been asking to be a part of Russia. And then what did he do after he took that part? He had another vote. Let's ask the people. And they voted the same way. We want to be a part of Russia. But Zelensky now is denying that these people are being persecuted because what they're claiming is that because they identify as Russians, racist right-wing Nazi Ukrainians are attacking them, abusing them, making their life hell. They're suffering persecution within that region. So Putin essentially is trying to help this Russian community and readjust them back into Russian society, and they voted twice. How dare the West sit there and say, oh, it's a fake vote? Who are you to make that decision? These people voted twice, and the outcome of the vote was the same. We want to be a part of Russia. And so Putin essentially says, well, I'm just acting for what the people want.
It's a little bit when you look at it from multiple angles, you can see that there's something not right in the air, and I'm gonna jump from another country to another country, but there's also something going on between the East and the West at the moment. Now, recently, China got Saudi Arabia and Iran to actually form an alliance or to bring back some peace talks between each other. And in that picture, you can see that the Chinese I think the Chinese president, he looked so happy. Now, this was done in private, and I heard it was only done in their language so that nobody else can interpret it or get it. So,
yeah.
So I was like, why would they do all of that? And I understood it a little bit deeper. You see, there is actually a war in the East that we don't know about. And China has got a problem with the US right now. It's a big problem because, again, the US always involved themselves in foreign policies. And foreign policies is the way that you form organizational groups that will be in the bracket of terrorism. That is the breeder of terrorism, foreign policies. Guy and mess with people's countries and then thinking that there's no consequences to it. There's going to be long-term consequences to it. So, for instance, at the moment, China, want Taiwan because they think that Taiwan is theirs. It used to be part of China and it got mixed up and blah, blah, blah. Now, everybody don't know this, but most people don't. Most people know this and some people don't. Taiwan has been getting funded by the US lots and lots and lots of weapons. Now, why are they giving Taiwan weapons? I can give you a simple explanation to this. China made a show of their power and dominance over Taiwan. And these are the stuff that the news don't show. Why are the news showing us this? Oh, it's just like a 5-second clip when it news at 10. Yeah, something going on in Taiwan and China. Bam, done. Like it's nothing. Like it's nothing. Like nothing's happening over there. So the reason why China, Taiwan, and America all in this little thing is something called the microchips. There's a bigger war going on that we're not seeing at the moment. Now, these microchips is in everything. Silicone. I don't know if you lot know about this. Silicone's in everything. Silicone's in the camera that's recording right now. Silicone's in that roadcaster. Silicone's in this mic. Silicone's in that light. Silicone's in this light. Silicone's in everything. My MacBook, everything. So when you pull it in that way now, Taiwan is 70% of microchips made in the world come from Taiwan. 70%. Now, why does that benefit anybody? Because in the long run, it's just microchips. How does that benefit anyone? These microchips is what put into their devices for their military warfare. So into rockets, into bombs, into this, into that, into everything. So let's just be, for argument's sake, do you think that whoever's got power over this, they've got power over kind of a lot? They've actually got a power over a lot.
Yeah.
So how do you now, China's thinking, oh, you lot are trying to do this against me because China's thinking, oh, you lot have done this because America's been doing this. What they do is when they see an opportunity for something, they always come in and say, yeah, let's monetize off this. Let's get rich off this. So they think they're smart, as in they've put pressure on Russia because of Ukraine. Now they're trying to keep Taiwan next to them, like, yo, sit next to us. That's why the foreign minister, the foreign council, whatever woman in America went over there to
Nancy
finish them.
Pelosi, yeah.
Yeah. Why is she visiting Taiwan for?
The fact of the matter is, America or the US empire is severely declining. They're not this powerhouse that they thought they was. The reason why they were able to just freely walk into countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, because first of all, they ain't got no nuclear weapons. They have no strong infrastructure. So they were able to sort of get away with that because they're bullies. They bully the weak guys. Now they're coming up against a big target, which is Russia and China. And essentially, in order to maintain this global domination, they were able to dominate the Middle East. We cannot deny this. They dominated the Middle East. They got what they wanted out of the Middle East. But Russia, China, the certain parts of the East, they're not going to be able to do what they did in Iraq to these countries. And so now they're resorting to dirty tactics through infiltration, through coups, through funding the opposition. This is exactly what they're doing. But essentially, America, the US empire is severely declined. And the same thing with the British. It's severely declined. And this can either go two ways. They can either showcase themselves again and prove why they are the global domination, or their legacy is done out. Because if you look at, for me, I love looking at empires. If you think of any best empire, the Roman Empire dominated multiple parts of the world. We hear stories about it to this day. What is Rome now? Italy's a little tiny island that's very poor, right? It's got a very bad economic system. It's a dump, with all due respect. The Greek Empire, another one. We heard about the Greeks and the battles that they faced. They eventually died out. Greece is the same thing. It's got multiple immigrants living there. The country's economic decline. Right? And every empire eventually is going to fall. So I do feel like we are possibly in the moment of watching this Western empire decline and die out. But the thing is, who's going to replace that empire? And as much as Russia's fighting against the bad guy and China's fighting against the bad guy, are they the saviors that we really want or that we really need?
I generally believe there's no saviors. In the end of the day, we're all doomed because now their agendas even got more corrupted, that they're bringing in the LGBTQ as in like that's part of the curriculum and part of the society and China and Russia don't really stand with that stuff, and a lot of Africa, a lot of the whole world don't stand with that.
Yeah,
but it's getting put into the Western world. Yeah. Now, not to divert or to diverge, I just want us to see something for a second. Yeah, who's told us that Russia and China are bad places?
the West.
Okay. I don't believe that what they're saying is bad because what I believe is bad is what we're getting done over here to us. Number one, we're in a food crisis. They still to this day haven't said to us, because we've done dumb sanctions on Russia, we've messed up our economy. I don't know why we're not speaking about it. Brexit messed us up. I don't like we're jumping certain topics, but we're not actually having the real conversations. So this country is going to the dumps faster than we can think it. The prices of everything's getting so high that eventually people are going to be so poor that they're going to result to what? Crime. Now, when the crime starts to go up, the police are not even going to be able to handle the amount of crime that is happening, so which leads to the army getting involved. All right, wait, hold up. Did you see the new budget that they just wrote out? No. 11 billion on defense. Somebody knows what's going on right now.
And they're doing military exercises on the streets of France. You got the army out on the streets of France. I saw a video the other day of French army members practicing on the streets of France.
Why is that?
Well, this is what everyone's thinking. What are you practicing for?
I can tell you. Everyone's practicing because they know what is about to happen. And the thing is, yeah, we're all going to be put in a situation where we're all going to be doomed because China's already infiltrated everyone's household. 9 out of 10 people have TikTok on their phone.
Yep. And this comes down to the change in warfare. Warfare is not like World War II, World War I with guns and tanks. We've got biological warfare, chemical warfare, cyber warfare. Cyber war is a very, very real thing.
It's a very real thing.
So with China now...
Do you know cyber warfare, the first time that we saw it in the modern day was when they was using ISIS. I never forget this. They were using them on Twitter. For some reason, ISIS always had accounts on Twitter, and they'd have like 1 million followers, and then they'll leave them up for like 3-4 days, and then cancel them. And I'm
No,
like,
I'll tell you what cyber warfare is. I actually watched a documentary about this, right? Cyber warfare has a lot to do with hacking, right? So, because we're using technology during war, for us to know where our enemy is, let's hack into their system, let's shut down their system, let's find out where they are, let's find out where they are positioned. Like, even during this whole Ukraine and Russian conflict, you know the amount of hacking that's happened on both sides? It's mad. Like, Russian TV will be reporting on something, and a Ukrainian would hack and disrupt the whole news. And the same thing with the Russians, right? There was actually a famous Algerian guy who actually hacked into a lot of banks in the world, took billions out. Like, they say this guy's like the worst hacker ever, and he literally broke into like all like the major banks around the world, took billions of pounds, and he apparently donated that money to Palestine. But that disrupted a lot of the banking system. But the point is, when it comes to cyber warfare, it's not ISIS or the Taliban having Twitter accounts. It's literally hacking your enemy's system. Now, imagine I've got a plan to do something to you, and my enemy's got the blueprint here because he's hacked into my system. And this thing happens. It's happened a lot. This is because we're dealing with technology here. So cyber warfare, you could have a whole strategy planned out to attack your enemy. Once that hacker gets in, he's shutting everything down. Your whole plan is gone to piss. And next thing you know, he's attacking you. So that's cyber warfare. Biological warfare, again, is using certain chemical weapons, which can, well, the Americans used them in Fallujah against the Iraqis, which caused kids to be formed. It caused the children to be born deformed. That's biological warfare, you know? Releasing certain diseases, that's biological warfare as well. Causing famine, causing a pandemic, that's biological warfare.
I think that's biological and as also psychological, because, all right, you know what, I'm actually seeing the actual mental effects that lockdown has had on a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Lockdown made everybody clock it, deep it. It made everybody jump on social media, because the only way to know what was going on was through social media. That's why propaganda at the time of social media was crazy. Do you remember the conspiracy theories? Do you remember 5G?
5G.
Do you remember 5G?
That, I remember.
How did that get so big?
Yeah.
That was in everybody's house. Everyone's like, hey, everybody, have you seen the 5G thing? Aye, the 5G thing's mad story, but you better mind up. Where's the 5G thing now? We all got 5G. Are we all dead?
Even I was debating it. 5G caused the coronavirus.
Where's that theory now?
Monkeys.
No, but I'm saying to you, yeah, there was a time, yeah, where anytime you put up a post to do, if you do it nowadays, they do it now. Anytime you put up anything to do with COVID, it comes up with like some COVID thing on any video.
Disclaimer, yeah.
Now, I want you to deep it. If there's a system that was generating, they could have found out how much people was talking about this pandemic at one time. They would have seen that the whole entire world, every single person on the planet. And it sounds, if I would have said this 20 years ago, that there's going to be one thing that every single person talks about on the planet, you look at me and think, no, there's not. There was a virus that came that every single one of us at some point had a little bit of fear towards it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Imagine me and you as Muslims, we had more fear. Some people had more fear of COVID than they even had of Allah.
It's true.
I heard people saying, "Subhanallah, like COVID, man." And I'm like, bro, like, but if Allah takes your life, He takes your life, innit?
Exactly.
Man, is that?
But that was a test, you know, for me actually personally, like going through that. You see situations like that, you have no choice but to put your trust in Allah, because the way that they made it out, like they acted as if you caught this thing, it was almost like you were going to be infected and you would just start, like, I saw videos of like zombies that say this brother's got coronavirus and he's all walking around mad. I'm like, right, this is going to happen to me if I catch this. Like, it had me so scared.
Yeah, it was mad.
But that's why I thought, you know what, like you say.
It was crazy. And you know what the funny thing is, yeah, now that it's gone, let's say for argument's sake, it was never here, but let's just say for argument's sake, it's gone, as in all the regulations, all the weird stuff. They tested how they can control the world. Just
all right, let me tell you about a conspiracy theory which kind of made me think. I don't know if you've had Snapchat before, yeah? If you remember the old Snapchat filter with the masks, right? This was years ago. Now, I used to think, why is there a Snapchat filter with a mask? This is not even really appealing like that, but they were like really specific masks. And so it's almost like they had us prepared to mask our face. Like, this is the only one that really got me. That's the one that hit me in my chest and made me think, rah. Somebody said, you remember the Snapchat filters? where they had us wearing the masks, different types of masks. And this was years ago. I can remember this from 2015, 2016. Remember those Snapchat masks?
I remember
be,
them, but
yeah.
I never. Now you're saying it. Now it's coming back, but I'm thinking, bruv, like, what did that even have nothing to do with anything? But now, deep in it, now it's like,
And they prepared us for. It's called predictive programming. That's what they call it, where they prepare you for certain things. And to be honest with you, you had a lot of us moving mad. I mean, the worst part of this pandemic, especially the British people, we were fighting over tissue paper. Like, let's say this is an infection disease that affects the lungs. I'm sorry, what is tissue paper going to do?
Do you want to even hear the maddest thing? I went to the aisle where the vitamins is.
No one was there.
There was like hundreds of
That's
vitamins.
where I was at.
I was like, people are not even buying the right things. I need to buy
I was
lemons.
buying lemons, mint, ginger, and people fighting over tissue paper.
It was wild.
But they really humiliated us as a society, and they made us hate each other. Like, people will be fighting, don't sit too close to me. Don't shake my hand. And like, I'm not saying that the coronavirus doesn't exist.
Do you know what the coronavirus really did? And this is me going from like an Islamic stance. I couldn't pray my Ramadan. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah? I think that was the worst thing that ever happened to my iman, because I'll be real with you. Every time Ramadan comes around, yeah, I always fix up. Like I'll be real with you. Like I'll be finished. But when Ramadan comes, and you might call me a Ramadan Muslim or this, I don't care what people say, because I think Ramadan is the time that you can become rectified for a few years or a nice part of your life. You can actually rectify your life, because there's a self-reflection in fasting that is just bigger. I can't explain it to anyone. You have to be a Muslim and fast. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the moment that I had to do Ramadan in my house and pray every night by myself, as much as I did it and I still felt good, it wasn't the same of when you go to the mosque and you break fast and you're around the akis and you hear the tarawih and you're going to the masjid. Your only intention, I'm going to the masjid to see and it's like 100 rows. You get into your row and then man's there all night and then man go and get food and then man's not even sleeping for Fajr. Man's saying, yo, Fajr's in 2 hours. I might as well stay up. You stay up for your Fajr, make your little food. You pray, then you sleep. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I don't know. That Ramadan was like, it was a blur to me. If you generally ask me, what did you do at Ramadan? It's blurry. It's so blurry. And I feel like that messed up my whole routine of even going to the masjid. Because I used to go to masjid and pray all the time. But like after so when they opened it and they said, oh, all these restrictions, keep 2 meters. I was like, this ain't even really, like, do you know, like, there was bare weird stuff going on. And I feel like for me as a Muslim, that affected me mentally and spiritually. And I'm only now getting back to normality. Imagine that.
I think the lockdown, so for instance, every generation saw some major crisis, like those in their 80s and their 90s, they went through World War II. The people after that went through other stuff. For us and my generation, this is like the biggest thing, I'm not going to lie to you, that's happened, this whole pandemic. And I feel like lockdown either made you or either broke you. And I think for me, it was a little bit of the both, because again, you're in a state of fear. You don't know what's going on. You're hearing terms like pandemic, infectious disease. So you're thinking that, right, like, we're all going to start dropping like flies. And so this is really a test of character. You know, it's a test of strength. Am I going to have a mindset where, okay, I'm going to fight through this, or am I just going to be scared? And a lot of people definitely broke. Their mental health completely declined. Families were destroyed. Divorces increased. Domestic violence, all sort of chaotic stuff happened. For me, I just utilize it as a time to reflect, to be grateful, to like, again, test my character. Like, you know, like I'm a very weird person. I always think like my life is like a movie. I always imagine like movie scenes in my head, right? And I'm seeing myself like I'm in a movie right now. Yeah, we're in a pandemic. Yeah, I'm moving like Will Smith with his dog in that film. I forgot what it's called. But I'm feeling like, yeah.
I'm legend.
I am legend. When they had like the zombies and everyone was in, that's how I felt. Like, I am legend right now. Okay, cool. Like, this disease is happening, and I tried to educate myself, and I was trying to like literally had a war mindset. Like, I'm gonna fight against this. I'm not scared of this thing. And I've done so much research, and then throughout the years, when more information started coming out, they lied to us. I mean, recently they exposed Matt Hancock again, who was the same guy that had an affair during the lockdown, where he told us to separate, not to kiss, but he was caught on camera kissing up a girl that's not his wife whilst being married. Yeah, then he decides to go on I Am Celebrity and think that we all forgot. But recently they say 900 text messages were released between him and some other MP.
I heard they were staged though. I heard they weren't real. Well, if whether they're real or not, he's denied them because obviously he's gonna
Of
deny
course,
them.
he's going to deny.
I would deny it if I was in that situation. I'll be real with you. I'm not.
But my main
I
point
ain't
is
taking
this.
no accountability for that. But if that was me, I'm not saying a damn word because boy, that's just incrimination on top of incrimination. So
Yeah, but my main point is this. Based on what I heard and what I experienced were two different things. What I was hearing is that if you catch corona, you're done for. It's over for you. You're not going to survive this. You're going to be in ICU. Because remember the footage that they were showing us in Italy where people were in wards and like it was terrifying. But in real life, when I stepped out, things were normal. All right, people wearing masks, but nobody's really moving shaky.
it's mad, isn't it, that everyone was wearing masks at one time, isn't it?
Yeah. Then I started to go to work. I was in very close contact with people. I didn't really catch anything. Then I started working in care homes full of elderly people between the age of 70 to 100. Yes? Some of them actually caught corona. They did not die. They actually recovered. Then I started working in hospitals. And then I thought, has the media over-exaggerated this? Or has the virus generally died down? Because as far as I'm concerned, I believe there's a coronavirus out there. Viruses exist, right? But they do not exist in the way that the media has made it out, to the point where if you catch this, you have no chance of survival. I've seen 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds catch this and survive. As far as I am concerned, from the research of the data, if you have a pre-existing health condition, you are more vulnerable. But it's not just that you're more vulnerable to coronavirus, you're more vulnerable to the flu, you're more vulnerable to the cold. If you have a pre-existing condition, any disease is going to make you more vulnerable, right? But as for the average Joe, I've had my mum catch it, I've had my sister catch it, but one thing I will say, alhamdulillah, is I never took that vaccine. I've never taken it.
It wasn't a vaccine, man. That was actually like testing out medicine on people. That wasn't a vaccine.
I'm so grateful I never took
my
it.
mum nearly died because of that. But back to, so we don't stray too far away from the topic. Like I said, there is a war going on between China and the USA that we're not aware of. Yeah. And it is about this place called Taiwan. The same thing. China eventually are gonna invade Taiwan, 100%. They're just trying to put themselves in a political good position with everyone in the East, so that if it does happen, you sanction us, you kind of ruin all your diplomatic ties in the East. So it's gonna be like the East can be cut off from the West. Now, who needs each other more, the East or the West? Truth is, the West need the East more than the East need the West.
Absolutely, resources.
Like I'm talking about natural gases, petroleum, oil. Like if they cut off, it's a crisis over here. Not to say they can't get it, but it's just scarce.
But you know what's very interesting as well, right? Like based on what you said about who needs who more, right? If the East completely cut relations with the West would completely self-destruct, right? But let me show you how countries like China, Russia, and even Iran are actually independent. So China completely near enough depends on itself. Same thing like North Korea, same thing like Iran. Now, the interesting thing about countries like North Korea and Iran is that they have a lot of sanctions. Now, the West imposes these sanctions.
Sorry. When I said it's the USA has got a war with North Korea. Sorry, North Korea is one of the allies. So China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran are all linking up. So yeah, anyway,
absolutely.
That's a whole other thing.
But the point is, when it comes to these sanctions, the West imposes these sanctions in order to disrupt the economy of a country, right? So we're not going to trade with you. You're not going to trade with us. We're not going to sell you anything. You're not going to buy it. You would think naturally that would mess up a country's framework. Iran has the most sanctions out of any country in the world. The most sanctions. Yet they are doing absolutely fine, if not better than certain other countries. Same thing with North Korea. North Korea's got a couple sanctions. They're doing fine. The Russians...
They still got sanctions, North Korea?
Yes. North Korea's got sanctions. Iran has got sanctions. Now, Russia has also received new sanctions. And somebody made a joke, right? Because the sanction could be like, well, no more McDonald's. No more McDonald's.
No more Coca-Cola.
No more Coca-Cola. But then that benefits the Russian people because they're going to be much more healthier and they're going to have more energy. So how is that even bad?
Yeah, but I'm not going to lie here. I'm not going to lie to you, Zubaida. There's some people that are addicted to Coca-Cola. So when you cut off their supply and you create the Russian version, it don't taste the same, man.
Of course, they're going to be annoyed. But the same point is, how are you affecting us when... Like, I think they should cut out all McDonald's and all of their franchises. Because somebody made a meme about it and they're saying, oh, they're sanctioning Russia, taking out McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Starbucks and all this MTV and Netflix. And they said the outcome is you're going to have a healthier, more educated population. So it benefits the people.
Do you know what? You've got a point there. I'm not even going to lie. You've got a big point.
This is why North Koreans are very military minded. Same thing with the Iranis are very pseudo intellectuals. If you know how clever Irani people are, they are like the master of many inventions, of many innovation. They're very, very intelligent people. North Korea, again, they're military people. Chinese people, very military. Russian people, very military, because their society is based on survival and based on manhood. But then compare it to Western society where it's just complete full degeneracy.
No, but do you believe me that I believe, and this is like my conspiracy theory that I've got made up in my head, that the East have clocked what the West are on, and they've kind of like, all right, how do we destroy these guys from within? Let's make their men effeminate. How do we do that? Let's create these apps that these men will spend hundreds of hours. Let's give them the views. Let's give them all the fame. Because I believe TikTok manipulate views, 100%. I don't care anyone says. When it's like, you got 65K, bruv, I haven't got 65K. You just told me that I got 65K because you want to keep me coming back. It's like a drug addict. It's like
That's psychological warfare.
Of course it is, because I'm gonna. I need my fix. Oh, how much views I got now? How did I get 50, bro? I looked at a video. It said 25K earlier. I went back on a video. It said 54K. Come on, bro.
But Russian people, Chinese people don't give a damn about that stuff.
Of course they don't, because they're dealing with real life stuff.
Right.
They're dealing with real life stuff. Man's really out there in the field. Man's really in the tank in Iraq. Like, doom. What? Them doom.
From young age.
So it's different to them. For us, like I heard in Iran, you have to join the army, and that when you leave school, girls and boys, that you have to join army.
That's right. 16 years old in the army, know how to hold a gun. Here, 16-year-old is sitting on his Xbox. Lord knows playing. I don't know what the games are.
But the thing is, back to the original point. Yeah, if North Korea, China, Iran, and Russia link up to fight the West, we are done. I just like to let you know out there, we're done. I'm flying to Africa and I'm chilling in some little village. Call me a pauper. I'll eat off the trees and try to make.
I'm
some
going back
rice.
to nature.
I'm eating some, bro. Let me chill here until you lot have done what you're doing, because
I'm in my tent.
am not coming back to get slaughtered, because they're gonna slaughter us. I know it looks like it's gonna be a fair battle, but I'm telling you, when Dons link up here, because now they've made the Saudis and Iran link up. Do you know how mad that link up is? Khorasan and that Middle East.
That's the Avengers.
Bro, that is the maddest link up. I'm talking about like economically. I'm talking about financially.
Militarily.
I'm talking about militarily. Like, yo, do you know, do you know I've got something, yeah, that I can't even show you, man. Are you gonna show them, man? You're not gonna show them? Alright, cool, look, so boom. This is say nothing, brother.
It's over.
And then China is the spearhead of this.
Yeah.
So, but you have to think, what's China on? Because China's thinking you lot are trying to take over and trying to control everyone and what we can and can't do. I'm not having this. And China is more in an economical, better position than the US.
Oh yeah, they're ahead of us. They're ahead of us by many years. Many years.
So I'm just thinking now, yeah, that this war is actually real and it is actually happening under our noses, and it's only a matter of time. And I believe in 3-4 years, China will be warring with USA, but on the point where they've already destroyed them from the inside in. So it's like, you see the same way the US do it. They do something called divide and conquer. It's a normal military tactic. You go to a country and you make the people hate. Remember they was doing it in all the Arab worlds. Don't you remember they was doing it?
Yeah, the coups. Yeah, there was.
What was it called? There was a name for it. What was it called? Something Awakening, or what was it called? I can't remember. But they started off in Libya.
The Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring. It was not called the Arab Spring. It was called the dividing all the Muslims. Yeah. That's what it's called.
Well, this is why I say bring Trump back. I know a lot of people won't like that. I am Trump 2023 or 2024. Trump is probably one of the best American presidents, as far as I'm concerned.
100%.
Because Trump is a businessman. So in order to be a businessman, you're very strategic in the moves that you make. And so every move that you make, you have to look at it as an investment. Joe Biden is the biggest liability. Joe Biden is a people pleaser. He's trying to please everybody at the detriment of his own people.
He's an old man as well.
He's got dementia. He doesn't know what planet he's on, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Donald Trump.
That's when he's got dementia.
He has though. I swear he's got dementia. I'm actually like, people have actually analysed him. Doctors have said this man's got dementia. Like, there's actually been psychiatrists and doctors who have diagnosed him on, this guy's got dementia. He's got dementia, bro. He will be on a live thing trying to read from a screen. He can't even read what's being said. He doesn't know what day it is. The guy's confused. He has got dementia, bro. He needs to be in a care home. The man's 80-something years old. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. right? But you have Donald Trump, who's a bit more level-headed, who actually had good relations with the Saudis, with the Russians. Yeah, he weren't their best friends, but he knew how to keep them from a
The
distance.
funny thing is, we want perfect leaders when we're not perfect ourselves. I think a lot of times in the world, we'll look at a leader, and we'll see 4 faults, and we'll see 10 good things, but we'll overlook the 10 good things and go straight to the 4 faults. I genuinely believe there's no such thing as a good leader. I think everyone's going to do bad in the time of office.
He's a lesser of 2 evils.
But Joe Biden, what he's doing right now, like trying to go to war with Russia, is the most unsensible thing in the world, just because of the allies that Russia has at the moment. And on top of the allies, you can't let Russia fall. There's some people that, like, in the world, I'm talking about in the world, like, I can't let Russia fall. There's other places like Belarus. There's bare places that we don't know about that they can't let Russia, because if Russia falls, that's the East finished. Let me just put that out there to you. It's the East finished. After them, they can destroy China. China's easy to get to. But they can't let Russia fall. And the thing is, what I genuinely believe that's going to happen, is that either they have to say, you know what, let's allow it. But I believe that the East is planting seeds of dissent inside of our countries. So like us now, we're struggling in this food crisis. It's only a matter of time before, when things like this happen, it's usually a revolution or something that happens.
Absolutely.
But it's never no good. And I'll tell you why, because whenever revolution, then new powers come in to control it. And when more people come into control, then we get more underground.
To be honest, it's absolutely outrageous if you really think about it, what's going on here in Britain, because we have nurses striking because they're not getting enough fair pay.
Oh, schools are shut for the last 2 days.
Yeah, we've got teachers striking, people that work for the train striking, cost of living crisis. We are in an absolute terrible mess, but for some reason we can rack up billions of pounds at the behest of Zelensky. Who the hell is Zelensky as far as I'm concerned? Zelensky used to be an actor, an actor, literal actor. He was running around doing, like, acting gay. Like, some of his characters was a gay man, a pop star. He was acting like a whole clown, right? Then miraculously he became the prime minister or the president of Ukraine. And now he's out here demanding, what sort of individual can you be, or a leader, demanding money of certain Western countries where you know that they are suffering economically to fund your war that you provoked after Russia tried to spare you, and now you've got this whole world dragged in. Now, let's just say this can kick off to World War III. I hope everybody knows out there that you could potentially end up dying or losing your life for somebody called Zelensky.
I'm not fighting for no Zelensky. I'm going to say that I'm an illegal immigrant, send me back to Jamaica. I don't know about you.
By then, it's too late. See, like, worst case scenario, if it became a nuclear war, nobody has any seconds to prepare. Once that nuclear bomb is launched, it takes about the maximum 7 minutes to 5 minutes for a nuclear bomb to touch UK. One nuclear bomb is enough to destroy the whole of London, right? They only need about 5 nuclear bombs.
No one's going to go that far, man.
Well...
And they've got defense mechanisms. It's not as easy as you think it is.
Of course it's not, but this is what we're playing with.
But I think that they're already destroying us already by destroying the people, their mindsets. You know these apps here, you have to deep it, We spend more time on these apps than we actually do with our actually Fumble members. Children nowadays are in a state of depression. This is actually a real life statistic. 7 out of 10 teenagers are suffering from some form of depression.
Absolutely.
But how, man? Like, that's meant to be the time of your life. Like, I'm 50, yay! 60, yay! City boy lifestyle, city girl. Like, not to say go and do that, but I'm saying, why are you so depressed?
Because
like,
of society.
everybody's off. I don't see anybody that's fully on what they're saying they're on, because the way that I'm looking at society now is they're destroying. I told you that lockdown, when you destroy the people that have Iman, you destroy the whole society,
But
because when you take out the leaders of Iman, bro, all there's left is just evil. No one's enjoying the good, forbidding the evil. The same reason why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, you are the best of nations because you're enjoying the good and forbid the evil. But how can we enjoy the forbid for evil on the nation of people? Like, even like man giving dawah and all that, like, they had us in our houses at one time. A lot of people was affected by this. People are trying to get back into a routine of things, but because things have gone so far, like, it's like we've been overwhelmed by certain ideologies that's out now.
Absolutely, but I want to go like deeper than that, because I was thinking about this the other day about history and architecture. I'll give you an example. If you look at ancient architecture, how people who had no phones, no laptops, no machinery, were able to build pyramids, or were able to build the Great Wall of China, were able to do the most amazing artwork on ceilings. That was all done off brain work, brain usage, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed human beings with something which actually makes us so superior, which is aql. Allah actually speaks about how important aql is, right? And aql is a gift. Aql is intellect. And this intellect that we have has been, us as human beings have utilized it so much so that we've been able to do great things. This day and age, people are not able to use their brain the way that they were able to use it before. Our creativity is very limited. Our intellectual stimulation is very limited. Hence why human beings this day and age are becoming depressed, because they're becoming overly reliant on other things other than themselves. And so when you compare to the people of the past, the things that they were able to achieve, they were able to build society, they were able to build great things, they were able to leave amazing legacies. That was all done off their brain work, of their own creativity, of their own human nature. Like, actually compare architecture back then to now. Now we just see blocks of buildings, dark blocks of buildings that are grey, that look depressing. But then if you look at ancient architecture in Rome or in Greece, and the beautiful structures with the detail that they carved in, they were able to do that because they used their brain capacity. Now we don't do that anymore. If we want to learn something, back then if you wanted to learn something, you'd have to go to school, you'd listen to the teacher, you'd read a 500-page book. Now, Siri, Google, and that's it. Our brains are not being utilized the way that they should be utilized.
And even with just to further on your point, even the spell check is actually making my spelling worse.
Yeah.
I used to be like, I'm talking about like, I'll do spelling bees. I'll be the kid, the kid at the spelling bees. Now, I'm like, bro, what's going on? Like, I can't even, like, basic words. Like, the other day, I don't even know what word I was trying to look for, but I was leaving a letter, and I said, let me stop the spell check. Let me try to spell it myself. And I still couldn't get it. And then I was like, oh, it was an A at this time. And it's not because I'm becoming so reliant on it that I don't even use my own brain. Eventually, when you stop using your brain, you start to become stupid.
And that's a part of the psychological warfare. We want to dumb down human beings so much so that they won't even be able to respond.
Human beings in the West. Let's get this right. Let's get this right. Because other countries, you don't have what we have. So they have to use that kind of brain power. So they're technically more smarter than us.
Absolutely. But again, that's psychological warfare. Dumb down these people so much so that when it does come to fighting for their lives or fighting for their country, they wouldn't know what to do because they've not been prepared. In China and these countries, they teach them these things from a very, very young age. Discipline is such a big thing in those countries. Like even in their schools, when they're lining up in rows, you understand? No talking, no back talking. This day and age in America, you will see videos of kids beating the crap out of their teachers. I've seen multiple videos of kids putting hands and feet on their teachers, and it's normal.
Do you know in China they have the death penalty? You have to you mess around too much, and if you're speaking bad about the government, you get in prison. And people might say, "Oh, that's bad," but I don't think that's bad. You've got to put people in check.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't care anyone says, everywhere needs to be a level of control. Just having a country full of democracy sometimes is wild. You have people disrespecting Islam, like, and there's no rights for people really on the ground. Like, democracy is not as free speech as they make it out to be. We're not living anything better than the people that we
But
claim
this is the outcome
worse.
of your democracy. What have we got? Have you got pseudo-intellectuals? Have you got good moral conduct? Have you got good moral principles?
According to them, yes.
Yeah.
According to them, yes. Because it's what they would class as the free world. When to me, this is the most closed off. Like, the moment that they can do people like Andrew Tate what they're doing, like, it shows us that there is no moral compass.
Everybody's depressed. Most people are lost. The subjective morality has gone out of control to the point where they're having discussions. This is how bad Western society has become. We are now in court discussing whether bestiality should be legal.
We talk about that. They already made it legal in Spain. Recently in Spain, they just passed a bill that you're allowed to be once you don't harm the animal. What?
Yep.
Once you don't harm an animal. Even thinking of doing something with an animal is harming the animal. What is in your mind?
But this is
You're
this
a
is the
sick
civilized
individual.
West.
You're a sick guy. Who in the Spanish court actually passed it? Because I need to know your name. Because I need to expose you right now. Because you are literally, I don't want to say what I want to say, but you are actually.
But you know what? It makes me think, right? It makes me think, are the Western leaders actually working against us? Because look, The Western leaders are pushing us to war, but yet you're making us so dumb that you're not even preparing us for war. So are you actually on the side of the enemy? Because it's not even like you're preparing, like you imagine pushing for a war, egging for a war for the big guys, knowing that the population that you have to work with are so dumbed down, and you're continuing to dumb them down.
But the thing is, they are, but they think that the technology is going to save them. That's why they're spending 11 billion. We're so dumb. We have to create some AI. And I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but AI technology is taking over everything. I saw a video today of Putin and Biden.
I saw that on TikTok. It looks so real. Yeah, I saw that.
Had their voices.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
AI technology. I don't know if you don't know what AI technology is, yeah. But recently I used AI technology for something, yeah. What was it? What did I use it for? I just used it for like some program on YouTube to find something out. They gave me everything I wanted. I asked them a question. They didn't just answer my question. They went above and beyond. I automatically, that chat, yeah, I closed it and went and done straight away what they said for me to do. Do you understand what that means? Like, they have chat forums where you can write emails now just based on the keywords that you put and like just the summary of what you're trying to say. They will make it into that all these pseudo very complicated and fancy words and pull it as an email. You don't have to work anymore. Do you know how dumb we're becoming?
Do you know this actually signifies that this is a direct attack from the shaitan and it's the devil's work, because the shaitan is jealous of man. He's jealous of the human being because Allah has created us in a very specific way. And so if you want to attack your enemy, you do things like this, because the human being is able to achieve so much with the capabilities and the attributes that we have been blessed with. And essentially, this is the devil's work. Dumb down the human being, dumb down his brain, dumb down the capabilities, because human beings have so much potential. And you only have to look at history. I could bring you multiple examples. For instance, how are we able to tell the time? The reason why we were able to tell the time is from the Dojo tribe, which is a tribe in Mali who were able to navigate through the stars, and they were able to tell the time and navigation through the stars. People can't do that this day and age. So the human brain and human beings have potential to do great things. And again, look at history. Look at the things that our ancestors and our forefathers achieved through limited resources. It's for us to end up like this.
We're in a really bad state, if I'm being honest with you. And this war that's happening is under our noses while we can't even sit. And before we know it, Zubaydah, guess what? All these apps lock off. That's the first sign of warfare. Everyone losing their mind. I lost all my followers. I lost all my money. Everyone's getting mad. The biggest thing. TikTok has fortunately been dropped out of all of... And then we're like, bro, what's going on? Now everyone's going to be dying for views. Instagram, same thing, locked down. Once they take the social media from us, they've destroyed our minds. Do you know why? Because, like I said to you, you lot think that warfare is how it was before. It's not. The same way when man had us in our house, a Chinese guy sitting somewhere had man in man's yard like this. Had man outside going, stay away from me. No, but I'm saying now you're laughing about it because you're deep in it, innit? You're deep in it.
True.
Someone in China made you have to sit in your house like this.
Like, don't come next to me. Don't come too close. Like, every
Stand
second,
in
hand
rows.
sanitizer every 5 minutes.
Everyone has to stand. Bro, do you remember? If you really go deep here, there must be a movie that has the same kind of correlates.
Oh, yeah.
Of like when like people are controlled in that kind of extent of control. Like that was a whole nother level of control. Like we're only allowed at your house for jogging. Bro, do you realize? I swear down you don't understand this. Yeah. Do you realize how controlled we was at that time?
You know what? There's another conspiracy theory you mentioned about films. So there are a couple of films that they brought out before the coronavirus which mimic exactly what happened. And then, this is another conspiracy, they found a book that was written by Boris Johnson's father. And in the book, he specifically speaks about the coronavirus and a pandemic. He literally, and this book was written in the 80s.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't even believe anything these guys said, and I'm wary of it. But the things that my conspiracy friends said, they said they're going to bring out a vaccine, and they're going to they're going to force everyone to take the vaccine. I never forget, yeah, I don't know if you was the only one. Did you get text messages saying take the vaccine? Mm-hmm. How did they get your phone number?
I had a knock on the door. On everything that I love, because I used to live in like a mini hostel thing. I remember they knocked on my door. I was like, "You right, mate? Yeah, we're just giving out free vaccine." No, I'm all right. Cheers, mate. Close the door in his face.
No, but hold on. How did they get your number?
Through the NHS system.
Yeah, but Okay, but I'm
Data. This is
but
how they preserve
but
data.
but what I'm saying is, Zubaida, how much text messages do you get? The most I got like text messages like every 2, 3, 4 weeks. I was like, it got to the point where I was like, I might as well just take this thing.
I
this
got
time.
letters, text messages, knock on the door, and I said, no, I'm not giving in. And you know the maddest thing, like, may Allah bless my mother, but she took 3 of the vaccines and she still caught coronavirus. So what's the point of this vaccine? Is it a preventative measure? Is it a protective measure? What's the point?
If I'm being honest with you, if you really want me to go a little deeper, it was actually a way of how to make money because
Yeah.
the Pfizer, they was on the stock market and they just took over the stock market at one time. Stock market dropped when COVID happened and went back up a few months later. And Pfizer, for some reason, just appeared on the stock market, was the top person. Their shares were like 100 grand for a share. Like I remember the first day, like someone was like investing it. It was £1. Next time I turned around, it was like 100 grand for one share in the company. Before you know it, Pfizer's gone now.
You know what? Something just come to my mind as well. Another conspiracy theorist that made me look at things. Have you seen the film The Da Vinci Code?
Yeah.
Yeah? That film is just full of bare conspiracies as it is anyway, yeah? But they made another one called Inferno. You know, the second one, right?
I read that book actually.
Okay, so in Inferno, do you remember towards the end there's a pandemic that starts, right? And in the movie, they're in Italy. And basically there's this big evil bad guy and he's looking to release this deadly disease. And in the film, they said the best place to start a pandemic is Italy because it's got the highest rate of tourists. So if it kicks off in Italy, it's able to spread everywhere else. Now, do you remember during the pandemic, what was the place that was hit the hardest? Italy.
What they made it look like.
Made it look like.
And that was what really sent fear into people's hearts. Italy, they were showing videos of man dying in the yard. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It's like, look, there's 3 people dead in the yard. They're like, we came back to the house and 3 people are dead. I was like, oh damn! The hospitals are booked up. Feds were coming in there. That was the first time.
Hazmat suits, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time we saw hazmat suits.
I saw
Italy.
it in my house, in my flat, yeah. When the pandemic hit, I saw an ambulance pull up. I see man in hazmat, and I'm looking at them through the window, and I'm thinking, what floor are they going to go to? They come to my floor, so I'm thinking, right, the person that's got the virus is on my floor. I literally open my door, it's 3 doors down, they go to one guy. Turned out the guy was just drunk. There was nothing wrong with him. He was just drunk, he was just playing up. But the way that they played it out, coming in the ambulance, wearing the hazmat suits, going all over the top for what?
And that actually, fear mongering people is doing tactics like that. That's how you really fear monger someone, because to make fear, you have to make it real. So first of all, you go through the propaganda. Every single time you turn on your TV, because most of us is in our house, what else are you going to do? And then on top of that, social media was literally promoting things and exuberating things. And it's funny because there was some conspiracies they never let fly, like when it came to the government. Like, because Boris Johnson was having youths breeding up the place.
Oh yeah, he got exposed for going on a dinner with a couple of his colleagues.
No, but Boris Johnson was breeding up. I think he had 2 or 3 youths through lockdown. Like and he got married.
You went to the Christmas party. Remember the one that he got exposed for?
Boris Johnson was getting jiggy with it. No. He was getting jiggy with it.
Boris Johnson makes me laugh.
But
even though he's
my whole point of what I'm trying to say here is that it wasn't what we thought it was. And it's only now that we can see that. So when I see them doing these things to us, yeah, I genuinely believe that the East is laughing at us as much as they think, because we've allowed a lot of things to come into our societies and a lot of ideologies that, like I said, I'm not going to go into every single ideology, but we've allowed a lot of things to come in that has brainwashed us and is brainwashing our children. Now, if we can let me just break this down to you. If you can make all the boys become effeminate and you can change people's genders, then when it comes to war, who's actually fighting? Deep that question that I just said to you. Let that one simmer. Another episode, Rare Talks. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bow.
Yow.